welcome to another episode of the HOP Nerd Podcast. I am your host, Sam Goodman, the HOP Nerd LLC. Make sure you head over to the website, www.thehopnerd.com, for fundamentals, learning teams, support, and so much more. Send us an email, thehopnerd@gmail.com, and be sure to follow along with us on all things social media at The Hop Nerd or at Sam Goodman. Welcome to today's episode. Hello, howdy, hi, everybody. Sam Goodman, the HOP Nerd LLC, the HOP Nerd Podcast, here for another episode, and I am ready for it. I don't know if you can hear that so good. It's an insulated cup today. I'm cold brewed and zenned up. I don't know. I'm getting worried. I'm getting worried about the Zen supply because, as many of you know, as we try to transition towards healthier forms of nicotine, right? I don't know. I find that many of us are a bit of nicotine junkies within, at least our worlds for whatever reason. As we transition towards more healthier means, I've also found that there's quite a resistance against that, and I'm pretty transparent about the fact that I really like caffeine, I really like nicotine, I really like steaks, and I really like naps. those are things that tend to get me in a real nice headspace. But I'm worried because those things are getting hard to find. They're getting like pricey and expensive with, if you didn't know, there's like a whole lawsuit thing happening there. We said it's not the intent of this podcast. I guess it's just a gripe right out of the beginning that it's getting real hard for me to find those things. But before we jump into today's episode, do me a favor, head to the website, www.thehopnerd.com. Make sure you scroll all the way to the bottom. You sign up for the mailing list. The mailing list. Make sure you sign up for the mailing list. And it's pretty simple. At the bottom of the page, in that little tiny menu, it'll say, join the mailing list. And you click that, and you shoot your email to me, and you start getting the weekly check-in. And it's a great way to know everything that's going on, from new podcasts to new videos to new articles, to where in the world I am currently at when you receive said newsletter. To the most important thing, I think, more recently, are public events, which are just cool because you get the opportunity to come out and hang out in some of these events, like the one coming up in September, the Hawkeye on Safety Conference in Iowa. I mean, the tickets are like $55, and I've kind of browsed through the agenda. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff happening. It's a great way for $55 and maybe a plane ticket to come out and hang out. And I'm doing another one here locally in Arizona. I've got some other stuff cooking that if you've listened to the last episode, there's some potential stuff happening later this fall too. And just a great way to know what's going on with those things. You can just click those, you can head over, you can look at how you can attend the events, all that kind of sort of cool stuff. There's the resource section, there's the podcast, there's the merch store with all kinds of new designs, all inspired by the podcast. Many of them have been cover art. As you know, I've been working on coming up with just some fun, because why not? Oh, why not? And everything has to be starchy and stale. Some fun cover art for the pods. I mean, you saw the one with me and Ryan Costello as the Blues Brothers. That's sick, right? That didn't quite make it onto a T-shirt, I don't think. Ryan, we might have to make that into a T-shirt. Just saying. My hatchet job of Photoshop there to make that work, but I have been working with many local artists and just artists from all over the place to come up with some really cool podcast-inspired T-shirt designs. So if you're looking for a cool way to support the pod, that's it. A great free way to do that is just leave us a 5-star review to share it. It helps a ton when you share stuff on social media or reshare stuff on social media. Or if you buy the shirt and you got the shirt and you're holding the book and you're taking a selfie and you're tagging me in it, I would love to see it, number one, because it's just amazing. That's always like the coolest thing ever. And I'd like to share it. So make sure you're tagging me and stuff like that as well. All that little bit of support goes a long way. It quite literally helps keep the lights on here in the podcast studio. And if you need a hand with human and organizational performance, send me an email, thehopnerd@gmail.com. I'd like to come out and help you as we move into this fall pretty fast. It gets hectic in the fall for me. My calendar's still looking pretty good. And if you would like to get some of those dates, send me an email. We'll jump on a quick Zoom call and chat about it, and we'll go from there. It'll be a real fun time, and I can come out and hang out in your organization and help you with human and organizational performance, or come and speak at your next keynote event, or just come out and help facilitate some operational learning. I don't know. We can just come out and hang out. It'll just be a blast either way. So get in touch, thehopnerd@gmail.com. Follow along on social media, and make sure you subscribe over on YouTube. I'm going to make some more videos pretty soon. And with all that said, let's just jump right into today's episode. Let's talk about a bit of a better starting point for us as we think about the people that work in our organizations. I've been having this conversation quite a bunch, more than what you like to, but I think it's a good thing because I've been spending more time with organizations that are new to HOP, and I think that's a good sign. That's a good sign. I think the conversations that we've been having as a community of practice are starting to grow beyond just our little echo chamber. And it's been growing in that way for a while. It's just been really slow. But I get a lot of rooms full of people over the past 6 or 8 months of folks that when I ask this question, like who knows why they're here, who knows anything about what we're getting ready to talk about today, and I might get onesie, twosie hands in some of those rooms. Now, other places I go for sure. Like I get like, yep, I know what this is and I know who you are and I'm pumped, or I know what this is and know who you are and I am mad, which is the mad is kind of more rare. I don't like you. Why are you here? That's kind of rare. But I think it is good. It's good because this message is getting farther and wider. And I like to think that has to do with a little bit of what we're doing here, the videos and the podcast, but more so it has to do with our community of practice as a whole, sharing this information throughout the interwebs, across various platforms, us giving it away, just going out there and having these conversations in the social media space and on podcasts, and so many great folks out there doing this. I mean, you can find great podcasts and great resources that didn't exist 5 years ago. And I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. So I'm by no means trying to take credit for any of that. I'm saying that I like to think that we're putting a dent in the world, but I think with all of us together, we're putting a pretty sizable ding in that world because this stuff is spreading. It's spreading and the conversations are happening, and that's super duper cool. But where I was going is I found myself having this conversation around people showing up to work to do a good job. And when you have that conversation in a room full of folks that haven't really heard these conversations or been a part of these conversations, I think that deep down we inherently know that that's true. Generally speaking, I think most of us kind of know that people are mostly good, right? I think that's a fair statement, that people are mostly good. But sometimes that conversation goes more in the line of, yeah, but bad people exist, so we have to treat everyone like they're bad people, because that's the way we protect against bad people, is by treating good people like shitheads. Huh? Yeah, that's the way in, again, I don't like using this traditional word, but that's the only word I got to use, so I'm going with it. And let's just say in the past, that's the way we've kind of viewed it, is that if bad people exist, we have to treat everyone first as if they're bad. And then if you're good, you don't have anything to worry about, but we're going to treat everybody like they're bad people. We talked about this way back when in Safety Sucks, the Manifesto, the book that I wrote with my near and dear friend Ian Allison. I framed this up as what I call the shithead clause, and that's my own way of putting it. And my little bit of hillbilly ease here is that people are mostly good. We can't fool ourselves and pretend that shitheads don't exist. If you put 100 people in a room, are you going to find a shithead out of 100? Maybe, probably. I would say the odds are in your favor of discovering a shithead. But just because shitheads exist doesn't mean that everyone's shitheads. That's not how this works. Most people are not shitheads. And when you treat everyone like shitheads, they start treating you like a shithead back, because you're really the only shithead. That's really it. Back to the point, right? Shitheads exist. And when you discover a shithead, yeah, you deal with a shithead. But most people are not shitheads. Most people show up to work to do a good job. To me, it's this, is that our organizations are comprised of mostly good people doing mostly good things with the best of intentions. That's really it, because no one's a saint. No one's 100% good and no one's 100% bad. That's just not true. It's just not true. It's mostly good people doing mostly good things, and almost always doing all the above with the best of intentions. I think that's where we always have to start, and we have to remind ourselves of that as we go, no matter how mature we are in our thinking around these things. We have to understand that we're dealing with mostly good people. Do shitheads exist? Sure. Do our organizations do a pretty decent job of sorting out bad actors and people that would come and just intentionally do harm, or there's very, very few, because it is very, 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 very few, right, in that grouping of folks. Do we do a good job of sorting those things out with their hiring processes? I mean, we poke people, we prod people, we draw blood, we put them through psychological examinations, we put them through skills assessments, we review resumes, and then we interview them 107 times, and then we bring them in on an unpaid basis to see if they're a good cultural fit. And we do all this stuff, and then probationary periods, and on and on and on and on. In my mind, I think that in our organizations, it becomes fewer and fewer and fewer than what we even see in the general population, because we have all these mechanisms that, well, I won't argue that they're perfect or that they're amazing. Some of those things I think are not good, but they work. They generally work. How about that? Yeah, that's maybe a good way to put it. So that once people get into our organization, we know that they're there, and most of them, almost all of them, are there for the right reason. So that number gets much, much, much slimmer. Internal to our organizations, will we have people that slip through the cracks? Sure. And we have mechanisms to extract people from our organizations that are there to cause harm or to sabotage the organization or any of the above. Again, it's just the slimmest of the slimmest of the slim as far as the minority goes of the people within our organizations. That always has to be our assumption, right? That always has to be our assumption, is that good people, we're dealing with good people trying to do good work, and they're doing it with the best of intentions, and they almost always get it right, and they're going to occasionally get it wrong. And when they get it wrong, we shouldn't just default to, well, you got it wrong, so now you're a bad person. Right? That's what we've tended to do in the past. That sucks. That's just, and it sucks, and it's just simply not true. Good people doing good work with the best of intentions, and they're almost always successful at it. When they get it wrong, because we all get it wrong, and sometimes we even discover an unintended operational surprise. We have something not great happen. We should approach those people with that understanding that we're not dealing with a shithead. We're not dealing, rarely, if ever, dealing with a bad actor, someone that's here to cause harm, to hurt the company, to get something over on the company. What you really have is a good person doing good work that mostly gets it right, and they occasionally get it wrong. What you have is somebody that's there acting with the best of intentions, doing work for your organization, and doing the damn best job that they can. They're there. They want to do their job, and they want to do a good, and almost always, many of them want to do a damn great job for your organization. And then they want to do that in an environment where they're not going to get hurt, maimed, or killed. They want to do that in an environment where they're not going to be treated like children, that when they do discover an operational surprise, that they're not going to feel the wrath and fire and shitstorm from the organization rain down upon them, because they've done this 1,000 times and they've got it right 1,000 times. And now just because I got it wrong, or this went a bit wrong, that's probably the best way to put it. It went a bit wrong this time. Now you're not going to trust me. Now you're going to call me a shithead. Now it's not really. They want to operate in that organization where they get to be great at their job. They get to almost always get it right, and they get to go home, and then they get to come back and do it again tomorrow. Back to the moral of today's hopefully very brief story, because I'm trying to wrap this one up short. Because if you're listening to this, I'm on vacation, and I'm not recording this while I'm on vacation. It's a pre-record as I'm like putting on my Hawaiian shirt to head to the mountains, because I'm a hillbilly. That's what I do, and disappeared into the woods in my Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops. I'm literally getting ready to walk out of the door like as I wrap this thing up. The moral of today's story is the vast majority, if any, of your employees are shitheads in the true sense of the word. Our organizations are groupings of people, mostly good people, that do mostly good things, that act with the best of intentions, that almost always get it right. Treating the vast majority of our employees like you can't trust them. Earn that trust. If you don't earn that trust, I mean, I poked you, I prodded you, I drew blood. I even took urine samples and hair samples, and I even tested you to make sure that you don't use Zen pouches like Sam, because you can't use nicotine here, or else you can't work here because that makes you a shithead, and all the above, and all these exercises in growing trust and making sure that you're the right fit, right person. And then I'm going to bring you into where I'm going to tell you I don't trust you. So earn that trust. If you don't earn that trust, then most people aren't shitheads. Most people are just good folks. They're just good folks. The moral of the story is to have that better assumption. When work is going well, assume that you're dealing with mostly good folks, because you are. When work's going not so well, assume that you're dealing with mostly good folks, because you are. It really is. We have to start there. It colors the rest of our interactions with those people. If I think you're a shithead, how am I going to treat you? Yeah, you guessed it, like a shithead. If I start with the assumption that trust can only be earned, I, because of my superior position in the hierarchy of the organization, am inherently more prone to be trusted. You must trust me because I have a very impressive title like safety manager or vice president of this or vice president of that, so I can clearly be shown as to be more trustworthy, and all you pesky employees beneath me must earn my trust. No. We talk about this with trust all the time, that if you want to grow trust up through the organization, you have to be willing to extend trust down and throughout. Yeah, to me, the first step in earning trust is extending trust. So, hey, buddy, I think you are probably the one that needs to grow some trust if you're thinking in that way, yeah? We have to start with the assumption that we're dealing with mostly good people. We have to start from a position of trust. That should be our starting position. We have to understand the better assumption is that people show up to work to do a good job. And we know this. And not only do they show up to work to do a good job, but they almost always get it right. So when things go a bit wrong, we can't just remove that assumption and say, well, you discovered an outcome that displeases me, and now you're a shithead. Nope. Doesn't work. So I don't want to I don't want to reduce this too much. But treat people how you would like to be treated. For me, that means treat people like adults. Yeah, that's a good starting point. If you're working with adults, treat them like adults. Check. Do that. Treating people how you would like to be treated usually means trust them. Yeah, trust them, because you can. How do you know that you can? Because most people are good people. Yeah, and in our work worlds, a lot of our folks aren't just good people. They're stinking great people. Not only are they insanely good at what they do for a living, and not only do they care an absolute shit ton, but many of the folks, a good majority of the folks that I spend time with in organizations all over the place, are the kind of people that would quite literally take the shirt off their back and give it to you if you needed it. They're freaking great people. Treat them like adults, and treat them like they're the great people that they are. When things are going well, when things are going not so well. Treat people how you'd like to be treated. Start with that better assumption. Most people, in fact, I would venture to say all. I think all is probably closer to the truth than most. People show up to work to do a good job, to do a great job. Do they make errors and mistakes along the way? 110%. No, because they're people. Do they discover operational surprises sometimes along the way? 100%. Yep, because that's work. They're good people doing work on behalf of your organization. They're great people. Treat them like it. Thanks for listening, everybody. We greatly appreciate all of your support of the HOP Nerd podcast, the HOP Nerd LLC. If you need a little bit of help bringing human and organizational performance to life, if you would like to take your efforts around learning and improving to the next level, yep, I can help with that. Head over to www.thehopnerd.com or send me an email, thehopnerd@gmail.com. Until next time, bye, everybody. Bye.